And I always think about her tagline. What is it? I'm the most rotten apple of the whole franchise, or whatever. Whatever it is. She's hangry, and we get that. But you know what? There was a redeeming quality. Sai with her aunt talking about just stuff within the personal life. Like, this was the Sai De Silva that we do want to see on the show. All right, so the recap starts right now. Real Housewives of New York, this new era, season 14, episode number 13, which is titled Night at Swingers. But the most important thing, although there was a couple important things here, was it was asked by Ubah, because they were asking about Ubah's business, and I'll get to that in a second. It was asked by Ubah, oh, so what makes these ladies, well, she didn't use the word ladies, what makes these ladies so special? And each of the husbands went, and I feel like I needed more. Like, each of the husbands were very like, oh, she's great because she puts up with my shit. Like, that, I don't know. We need a little more elevated with the husbands in that situation. Not meaning to nitpick, but I mean, I don't want to. Yes, I do want to be critical because I expected so much more. But Pavitt was the only one who really got the But I mean, Abe, who I like Abe, of course, and David, they also weren't the greatest in that commentary, in my opinion. But we will get there. That's when everybody is enjoying themselves at the golf and the night at Swingers, if you will. Let's start the episode, though, by breaking down just where we're at. So, of course, the last episode was coming off of Jessel and Sai. It almost feels like, is this still going on? But yes, I guess it is still going on. Brynn is still sick, so we're dealing with that. But the part that really got me excited, aside from also, there was a couple things. There was Jenna's story, there was Sai's story, and we'll start with Ubah's story. So we're getting fashion. You know, there's that level of like reality TV and a model. But sometimes when you really remember, it's kind of like when you would watch Cynthia Bailey and then you would really remember, you were like, oh, that's right. Cynthia Bailey, sure, she's on this reality show and they're all, you know, cackling together. But she's like a model. Like, she's that girl. She's always been that girl. Same thing I thought we saw here opening up the episode with Ubah, because it was like, yeah, she's on reality, but we forget just how amazing she is at what she does. And, you know, the whole thing that really made it come together, too, is how she's tying everything together. It's like, modeling is my sugar mama, and Ubah Hot is, you know, we're making it rain on this career. The things for me that made this dynamic amazing, outside of just, I love to see the New York City pounding the pavement, going for your dreams. You know, I've always loved all that when I watch a show. It's funny that they do these reality shows more, and yelling and crazy and upset and mad. Like, sometimes I like to see the process of somebody elevating their life, and that's kind of what we're seeing with Ubah. So this was like my bread and butter. So Ubah has a collaboration that she's working on, which is exciting. But as we reference back to, we realize and remember that she said she doesn't necessarily feel comfortable with an investor because of some of the stuff that goes on within the modeling and other industries. You know, she feels, and she said it, I never feel like a lunch is just a free lunch, you know, and that, of course, you have to take it as you will with that, but you know what, you know, the implication is. And all of that is so frustrating, so heartbreaking. So having that knowledge of what she feels and what she's going through within that, and why she navigates her career the way she wants to do it, it's exciting to me. It's like, I think she said, I at one point will for sure have to team up with an investor to take Ubah Hot to the next level. But right now, I'm just going to kind of continue to grow. She's building that leverage. And I don't know, I really like to see that. Other boss moves that we're seeing is Jenna is going to Scotland. A brand is sending her to Scotland. So that's, you know, of course, amazing. Jenna effortlessly showcasing she's on another level. And we love to see it. There was this one part in the scene in the episode where everyone's being downloaded on like what happened at that lunch, you know, that 40-minute or 15-minute late lunch with Sai and Jessel. But I won't even bring it up per se, because we're going to get to that when they're all at Swingers. It kind of comes up so many times. So, you know, that'll be something we could chat about in a second. What I loved with Jenna, though, is just the simple, maybe the things I don't even think about, like she's a mother of her son looks like he's like 14, 15, 16, maybe. But the idea that like, doing her busy business work on the off weeks where she's not with her son. It's just these little things that I love to see on the television. You know what I mean? Because it can't be easy. When they broke up, when her and the father, when they broke up, and she's still this businesswoman, and then of course she was later on outed as a lesbian, and she's got her own life, and mixing all that in with her son and business. It's I don't know. It's a really fun story to watch. It's really a refreshing, like seeing a woman in business so successful and all the goods and I wouldn't call this bad, but the scheduling logistics that come with it I thought was cool. Sai, Sai has been our rotten apple, or what did her tagline say? I'm the most rotten little apple you'll see on the whole cast, or something like that. um Baddest apple in the bunch is what she said. But Sai, even though she has had a harder season, um, it really worked for me as a viewer to see her showcase to her aunt. Her aunt is in town, and they're talking about these memories with Sai's mother. For one, I didn't realize that Sai's mom. It was such a shorter, the loss. I for some reason thought it was a little more time had passed, but I guess it was fairly a new wound, if you will. And I really related to that. I got two really big sides of my families, and I was on the phone with an aunt, an aunt who's a little bit older, and just talking about some stuff, like some real stuff, and the matriarch, and the this and the that, and all these really like things that you could only understand within the context of your own family. And so seeing that, I felt like as soon as Sai showed her aunt the book, which the book was, of course, of the mother's paintings, something really kind that David did, the waterworks that came from the aunt and what that situation is like, I felt it too. I felt it a little bit. And I think it's always that tough thing because, again, both sides of my family, it's like there's always going to be somebody who will go through their set of struggles, and you're like connected, but what can you do? And I think seeing the sister, what would have been the sister of Barbara, the aunt, seeing her, feel all the feelings was what reality TV should focus on a little bit more, because that felt very real. It felt very, very authentic, and it felt very hard to watch, hard to see. It's like these moments that the chapter really is closed, and what can you do with that at this point is to provide and continue to have the legacy of the person. So this was a good Sai moment. It showcases her good intentions. We'll get to the bottom of just in general in life why maybe next season why she says she's not sentimental, and maybe all of the stuff she's been through is what kind of creates somebody who stays away from sentimental things. But the kindness that she did within this scene was really, really good, in my opinion. And before we get to the night at Swingers and how Jessel later spoke with Brynn and Jenna, about how she felt with all that. And of course, Pavitt had something to say too. Before we do all that, you must be wondering, how do I help out good old randomly Ronnie Jr.? You're probably wondering, how can I help? Well, a colleague of mine might have just the answer. So let's take a look, and then we'll come back.
Well, hello there. Thank you for watching and supporting the show with my good friend, Randomly Ronnie Jr. Who the hell am I? Great question. My name is Mark Rodriguez with Mastermind Media, and I wanted to take just a moment of your time to let you know about all the other incredible things this guy, Randomly Ronnie Jr. has going on. But first, before we get into that, please comment, like, and subscribe. That is how he grows here on these channels. But one channel you probably don't know about is patreon.com/Ronnie Randomly Ronnie Jr., where he's got a bunch more exclusive content. So please check that out. But speaking of YouTube, let's go back to YouTube for a second. He's got this hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. and it shows all of his stuff in his days in radio from back in the day, all the way up to present day, and his new interviews, podcasts, just videos across the board. So please check that out, because when you think about content creators, there's millions of content creators, but there's only one, randomly Ronnie Jr. Let's get back into the show.
All right. Thank you, Mark. And thank you to anybody who has supported in any way. Of course, creating content, be it the nearly 20 years when I started radio to now, whatever is going on, the sport does mean, it means a lot, right? I mean, how else can you do the work? So listen, let's get right back into Real Housewives of New York. So it is the night of swingers. Who we don't have there is going to be Jenna, because she's in Scotland. And who we don't have there is Brynn, because Brynn is still sick. Yes. And she's reading books. She's a book reader. Yes. Okay. So the first to arrive is going to be Erin with Abe and David with Sai. This seems to be the foursome in terms of the two, hot couples that they really get along with each other. They're all friendly. Like the husbands are friendly. The wives are friendly. They love talking about Jessel. Like it seems to work. We know that Ubah's on her way after. But first we're finding out, or Sai's finding out, well, who's all coming? And Erin's like, oh, your favorite, Jessel and Pavitt are coming, which to me does not seem like it's going to be that big of a deal. They'll do some miniature golf. They'll have a great time within each other, hanging out as a group. This should be fun. When Sai does start to talk with Jessel's more like, I really was just trying to relate. And I got to say, I totally feel that we as people do that. We're not stepping in. There is a right time and a wrong time to step into a conversation, but we're not stepping in to say like, oh, no, let me completely negate what you are saying and tell you another sad story to overshadow. No one is ever intending that. Sometimes the intention is as small as you hear something and you remember something that made you feel that way as well. And you feel like sharing will be a connection. I know that I've actually done it too, where I'm not saying Jessel is correct to do that, because you can overstep, but I could see where that comes from. I think naturally we sometimes always do that. It would be like the difference between somebody stating something that goes on within them, and then you naturally saying, oh yeah, well, like let's say Jessel tells me about her uncle, the situation that will go on. I would say, oh yeah, sadly, I had an uncle that went through something similarly. It wouldn't be to overshadow Jessel. It would be to connect with her. But Sai doesn't see it that way at all. I'm not saying I can't understand Sai's side, but dang, for somebody who's going to say, what does she say all the time? I don't care. I don't care. It's like, you don't care. Erin doesn't seem to care. But it seems like you care. Oh, also at the dinner, or drinks or whatever they were doing, we learned that Erin, made Abe very happy that morning. To which Abe was like, I feel bad for Erin because, I want him all the time. Yeah, so a professional as they are called. But yeah, it's they are fun. Erin and Abe are fun, and it seems like they have a fun. Their conversations about their sex life, they feel very free with it, and I do like to see that. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what to add to that. Erin, though, herself, she was loopy in this episode. Like, I like to see it, because the thing about Erin, the people who really like her, I do really like her on this show. But the people who don't sometimes feel like she's a little too uptight. So I don't know if it was the professional in the morning that she gave to Abe, or if it was just being buzzed or out on a Tuesday night without the kids. Sometimes being able to just be out with without being in parent mode could let you have a lot of fun. She was having a lot of fun, even flashing forward when Ubah gets there and Ubah's like, what's going on? Like, even the way Erin is like saying, oh, this happened and that happened and this is what I think, like, she felt fun and free, and I really like to see that with Erin. But what do we feel about Jessel and Sai? Like, what is your thoughts on it? It just does seem like it's a little too much in terms of if Sai really does want to let it go or not care. Seems like she cares. It seems like she really cares. The part that I appreciated though was that she said, well, I quite frankly, you bringing up these things by way of my mother was a little offensive to me. So I can at least respect that part of it. Sai, of course, storms away. That ends the conversation. Jessel's, of course, hurt, and just something that just won't go away for whatever reason. But you know who does show up and does kind of make it go away? The amazing Ubah. Like I said earlier, Ubah was, she's so much fun, and everyone's talking, the couples are talking, Ubah's talking, and David, Sai's husband, he decides to say, I mean, I feel like it was so good with an intention, but it did sound a little like, hey, hey, Ubah, you're perfect in every way. What makes you single? Why isn't anyone loving you? Or well, why aren't you in a serious romance? I feel like I get the complete support in that sentence. Like, oh my God, you're the perfect woman. You're the perfect person, rather. You're the perfect everything. I'm surprised you're not, dating or in a serious relationship. But the way it's said, I don't know. It gets a little like, huh? Did he say it like that? But I mean, I guess he was just trying to be positive and encouraging. However, to us, the viewer, we have got to ask the question: are we a little bit frustrated that we do find out later that that Ubah is actually kind of seeing someone? Ubah's standpoint on the situation is that, listen, it is new. In the past, things that have been new have dissolved very fast, and I want to kind of keep this a little quiet until it becomes something more substantial. I get that. I feel like a lot of the fan base and the viewers may jump to like, well, you're on a reality show, you should show everything. I think she's showing it as it should go. I don't know if I'll think this next episode, when it becomes sort of the center point as to, it got brought out onto the show, because then in that case it's like, well, the show is for the viewers to watch things that are going on with your life. If you're dating, maybe we should see it. But if it became like this big, like if it becomes a thing that ends up being like a little bit of a snowball effect, you do have to get a little like, huh? So I could see the protecting of the relationship if it's new, but if it's something that you're already sort of talking about and very happy with, clearly, maybe you share a little bit more. I don't know. Who's to say is the thing. Who's to say? But I only say all that to say is, do you think David already knew? And because David knew, he said, I'm going to put you in this awkward situation. I'm going to play, oh, well, why are you single? Because that's the story that Ubah's giving us. I am the single girl. She turning it right around. What makes you like these ladies? Each of you husbands should say what you love about these ladies. But maybe David already knew. But anyways, who really cares? I think it was a fine scene. I think it was fun. Yeah, no, nothing else to it. But it definitely leaves Jessel feeling, sad and emotional. She later has Brynn and Jenna at the house, kind of filling them in. There's a lot of filling in. There's a lot of conversation updates within this episode. And she's just updating them and filling them in on what they missed at the swingers. And, on one hand, Jessel's saying, I feel like these are being mean. They're mean girls because it's constantly Sai and Erin. I typically was never a big fan of the mean girl comment, because I was always like, well, didn't you just lose? Sometimes you can't make somebody else a mean girl. Sometimes you just lost. But in this case, they do have a huge appetite for like questioning everything that Jessel does. So I don't know. Do you feel like it's a mean girl situation? I usually don't love first of all, I didn't think the movie Mean Girls was that great. October 3rd was funny. Regina George, the name is funny, but that's about it. So I didn't love that Jessel, went to that. Like, oh, they're being mean girls. I wish she would have just been like, I'm tired of it. I'm just upset that these two won't leave me alone. I don't feel like anyone was ganging up on Jessel. I just feel like that's who they are. There's a slight difference there. I don't know if that makes sense, but there's a slight difference in that. I mean, but if she wants to say mean girls because that's how she's feeling, then Queen Jessel, we're okay with it. My favorite Jessel moment of the scene, or the episode rather, was, oh, maybe Sai's just mad because she doesn't dress as good as I do. Oh, Jessel, you better tell her. You better tell her. Um, Going back real quick before we get to being updated with Brynn and Jenna. Um, then the conversation, biggest moment, I was going to speak on it after, but no, the biggest moment at Swingers is they really start to hammer in on, well, what do you mean, Pavitt? What are you doing? So here's my thing with that. It does sound a little odd and awkward. So I feel like if it is something, just say what it is. Oh, I go all the time. One of my friends told me about this, and this. It's like they're playing both Pavitt and Jessel while they owe no one an explanation whatsoever. They're playing a little coy about, oh, I don't know. It's just maybe going, like, they don't owe or justify you anything, Erin or Sai. But at the same time, you do know what you can state, what you could say that kind of evokes a little bit of a conversation or a question, like, wait, what? That don't make sense. Like, say something. So when they kind of get quiet and don't say anything, that's when I think I'm like, I mean, this is like trolling, kind of. You throw something out there just for somebody to comment, and then you're like, oh gosh, they always have something to say. Well, I mean, you have to know it's a little different. Have a little bit of a story, a backstory as to what the, hey, I've done it 2 other times, but just the way it was like, oh yeah, he's going there just 24 hours. Weird or not weird? I don't know if it's weird or not weird, and I'm not going to get into what he's doing over there. If they're having a sex issue with their relationship here in New York City, if it's like, if she, first of all, I don't think Pavitt is doing anything. That's number one. Number two, if she's okay with it, I feel like you have to let a relationship go the way it goes, because they're all different. And I don't think Jessel's the type that just takes anything. I think she's very specific. I think she runs that ship real tight. She said they were friends first. They were friends, and then she got them together, and then she married him, And maybe that friend vibe that they had years before even getting together, maybe it makes their relationship not as traditional. Yeah, of course. Does it sound that way? This is why I said Pavitt and Jessel should basically state something. They should say something that makes it not so whatever, because otherwise it sounds very trolling, like you're trolling in terms of, here's this weird odd thing, and yet you don't say nothing about it, and then we ask questions, and now we're the problem. You could say something. You could say, oh, this is why I do the miles, this and this, and I couldn't go there then because of this and this, and I actually don't know. Or you could say, back up, don't ask me too much. Like, I don't know. I am now like Sai, where I'm like, I don't care anymore. Like, or if people do care, say they care. Everything is very like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm going, I'm not going, maybe. So the genericness of it all, everything was so generic. I was like, we're not getting no answers. Anyway, it does make Pavitt a little bit mad though, because when we're back at the house at Jessel's, notice I said Jessel's, not Jessel and Pavitt's. When we're back at Jessel and Pavitt's house, Pavitt gets in on the gossip. Yes, he does. Brynn is there, Jenna's there. Everyone's kind of exchanging information about what was missed. And Pavitt literally goes on and says, I don't think my wife's a diva, but I think Sai, has issues in terms of going from 0 to 100. Something he definitely should not have necessarily said. But he feels how he feels, and he's probably really tired of like his wife having to go through it with these ladies. This is the end of season 1, their season 1. And I'm sure it's tiring. I'm sure it's exhausting. And I'm sure when the cameras are down and it's just, the relationship in itself, Pavitt really wants to be there for Jessel in every way. And so it does feel like, gosh, this same story, this same, constantly Jessel can't do nothing without there being an opinion. And I do think opinions are great. That's what I love about, New York. But yeah, it's just becoming all too overwhelming. I still rate the show pretty good though. I still think the show, the whole season, yes, but the show itself, I still saw a lot of what I wanted to see in a show. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I'm going all over the place, but that's just what's going to happen today. We saw or heard that Ubah is actually really dating somebody, or kinda. So that's even exciting. So see, the show in its in its entirety is really good. You've got the boss, that is Jenna, and all these big moves. You've got Brynn. Brynn said that really comment about the poking holes situation. So that I knew where she was trying to go, and the cutesiness of it and the flirtation of it, but but we're having that, and that's fun. The Brynn stuff, and Sai with her husband, and Erin with her husband, and Ubah, like this career woman, just boosting her career. I love it all. I think it is really going good. But in terms of us sitting here and recapping and having a comment on like who's right and who's wrong, I'm turning into Sai, where I'm like, I don't really care anymore. Like I think they're all really fun to watch. Jessel being still the funnest. So sorry, Sai's it just wasn't her season. We'll see how the reunion turns out. We'll probably start getting a preview of that very soon. Nonetheless, I'm into the show. Anyways, I'm trying to think, is there anything else to talk about? One fun thing. Actually, I always feel like I'm going to say something at the end of the episode, but we will push that back. Come on back to the thing, hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr., where we will get to the rest of it. Until then, I gotta go. In the comments, let me know who you are enjoying this season. Hopefully everyone in the cast will come back. What do you think of those silly bits of commentary that each of the husbands had to say about why they like their wives? See, I expected straight men need to learn. I expected they be like, oh, my wife, she completes me. She's the most beautiful thing I've ever laid my eyes on. She's the mother of my children. Like all these really romantic things. Not, she's I'm codependent and I need her by my side. It was like, what is going on, straight man? You all need to get your stuff together. Yes. All right, that's the end of the episode. Gotta go.
Hey, Ronnie Jr.